This is the Delhi station of All India Radio. Please stand by for our next program. You will now listen to a radio report on the two-day National Conference on Human Rights in Indian Culture and Philosophy, organized by the National Human Rights Commission. The National Human Rights Commission (NHRC), in collaboration with the Indira Gandhi National Centre for the Arts (IGNCA), organized a two-day national conference on human rights in Indian culture and philosophy, which culminated earlier today in New Delhi. The inaugural session was held yesterday at Vigyan Bhavan in New Delhi, wherein Shri R.K. Singh, Honorable Cabinet Minister for Power, New and Renewable Energy, was the chief guest. Justice Shri Arun Kumar Mishra, Chairperson of the National Human Rights Commission, delivered the welcome address on this special occasion.
भारतीय दर्शन में अधिकार व दायित्व का निर्वाह साथ साथ आवश्यक है। हमारे देश में विभिन्न धर्मों में मानव अधिकारों का पालन सुनिश्चित किया गया है। हमारा धर्म ही हमें मानव अधिकार सिखाता है और उनका पालन करने की आज्ञा देता है। धर्मानुसार आचरण ही मानव अधिकारों के रक्षा का हमारे यहाँ एक संबल बना है। इन सभी में सबका मंगल हो, कल्याण हो, सब सुखी रहें, यह भावना निहित है। धर्म से अर्थ कमाया जाना व एक भाग पात्र व्यक्ति को दान दिया जाना हमारी संस्कृति की अनूठी विशेषता रही है। धर्मानुसार व्यवहार ही मानवोचित व्यवहार है। जो धर्मानुसार आचरण व्यवहार नहीं है, उसको मानवोचित आचरण व्यवहार नहीं कहा जा सकता है। कौटिल्य के अर्थशास्त्र में प्रतिपादित किया गया है कि राज्य द्वारा समाज में ऐसी आदर्श परिस्थितियों का निर्माण करना आवश्यक है जिससे कर्तव्य, भौतिक धन और संतुष्टि, धर्म, आस्था और काम की पूर्ति हो। इट्स गवर्नमेंट्स ऑब्लिगेशन टू प्रोवाइड फॉर एम्प्लॉयमेंट, रिलीजियस फ्रीडम एंड इक्वल जस्टिस, संतुष्टि। अथर्वशास्त्र व मनुस्मृति में कल्याणकारी राज्य की स्थापना की परिकल्पना की है। बौद्ध और जैन धर्म के विद्वानों ने भी मानव समाज में मनुष्य की समानता का उपदेश दिया और भेदभाव का प्रतिकार किया है। ये जो 2 दिन का हमारा चिंतन है, इस दृष्टि से बहुत अधिक महत्व प्राप्त करता है कि हम आज की वर्तमान विकट परिस्थिति में हम किस प्रकार से सॉल्यूशंस को ढूंढें और किस प्रकार से पूर्व की आस्थाओं को आगे बढ़ाकर पूर्व अपने देश में ही नहीं, विश्व में शांति की स्थापना करें, भाईचारा लाएं, वो एक दूसरे के सहअस्तित्व, सधर्म, सर्वधर्म संभाव तथा एक जो वर्ग आज भी शोषित व वंचित है उसको कैसे ऊपर सामाजिक उत्थान हो, यह हम सबका सम्मिलित प्रयास है। और जो विचार एक्सपर्ट्स द्वारा, विद्वानों द्वारा दिए जा रहे हैं, हम निश्चित तौर पर उस पर गंभीर चिंतन करेंगे और उन विचारों को निश्चित तौर से आगे बढ़ाएंगे।
The NHRC Human Rights Awards Short Films Competition 2021 were also presented by Shri R.K. Singh, Honorable Cabinet Minister for Power, New and Renewable Energy. He also addressed the packed plenary hall in Vigyan Bhavan, New Delhi on this occasion. Let's listen in.
The Western world, came out with the concept of human rights. And they felt that they were the first to do so. In fact, they felt, उनकी ये सोच रही कि हम ही दुनिया को ह्यूमन राइट्स दे रहे। और यह आवश्यक था बताना कि हम कहाँ से आ रहे हैं और हमारी पृष्ठभूमि क्या है, हमारी अतीत क्या है, हमारे इतिहास क्या है। ये डीएनए, ये तो हमारे डीएनए में है। ह्यूमन राइट्स तो हमारे डीएनए में है, ये किसी की देन नहीं। मैं जहाँ से आता हूँ वहीं से अशोक भी थे, वहीं बुद्धिज़्म भी पैदा हुआ, वहीं जैनिज़्म भी पैदा हुआ, वहीं सिखिज़्म भी पैदा हुआ और महात्मा गांधी का सत्याग्रह भी वहीं प्रारंभ हुआ। और ये सब इसीलिए हुआ, यह एक कड़ी है जो कि सदियों से चली आ रही और ये बार बार इस प्रकार अहिंसा, मानवाधिकार, सभी एक हैं, सभी बराबर है, ये हमारे पूरे अस्तित्व में, देश के हमारे कल्चर में, अस्तित्व में ये रमा हुआ है। दुनिया ने जबकि डेमोक्रेसी के नाम, they had never heard of democracy at the time, they were probably sort of nomads. We had the first democracy in the world in Vaishali, a few centuries before we gained our independence. That was the first democracy in the world. You had people deciding for themselves. You had Buddhism, which you had Jainism, which renounced violence of any kind. हमारे वेद में ही लिखा है सत्यम वदम धर्मम चर, सत्य बोलो और धर्म का आचरण करो. By dharma, I don't mean religion. The concept of dharma in Hinduism is not religion. The concept of dharma in Hindu scripture is of a way of life. And the way of life which respects the rights of all human beings. We come from a culture, we are inheritors of a culture, where a common man could get up and question the emperor about his conduct. Now, that's the culture we come from. So, this concept of human rights is something which is inborn in us. It's not something, which came from outside. That's the truth. That's the fact of life. We gave women, the ladies, the vote right when we wrote our constitution. In most democracies in the West, women's suffrage came in the 60s. Imagine. And that also after some struggle, after some fight. We had affirmative action, written in our constitution, reservation for the certain categories which were the weaker sections. ये हमारे संविधान में लिखा हुआ है. So, ये affirmative action की लड़ाई जो पाश्चात्य डेमोक्रेसीज हैं उसमें अभी हाल तक चल रही है, अभी भी चल रही है. ब्लैक लाइव्स मैटर अभी भी चल रही है. हमारे यहाँ एफर्मेटिव एक्शन शुरू हो गया हमारे संविधान से. उसी में हमने कमजोर वर्गों के लिए आरक्षण दे दिया. अभी तक बहुत सारे डेमोक्रेसीज में ये एफर्मेटिव एक्शन नहीं है. ये हमारे यहाँ है क्योंकि ये हम लोग का नेचर है. कोई हम लोग को ये सिखाता नहीं है. We don't need to take any lessons from anybody. It's there in our culture, it's there in our history. It's just that we have not taken the trouble to study our history or research our history. Our history has been researched into by people who came from outside, and they wrote our history from their perspective. Now, we never had, the Indian historians who carried out research in what our past has been, what is the tradition which we have inherited. That is the truth, and that is something which we need to remedy. And I hope that this will be the first step towards remedying that in the field of human rights. And let this be a continuous process, so that let this not end with this seminar. Let this be a continuous process, and a book after this, I think, will be absolutely necessary. That it is our country which has expanded the concept of human rights. Now we have expanded it to include a number of things. We've expanded it to include housing. It is this government, which decided that we'll construct houses for everybody who is poor, below the poverty line. And we've already constructed 27 million homes already. And we have, we are in the process of constructing another 36 million homes. Now that's the equal of the total populations of France and Germany and Italy and Belgium combined. That's what we are doing. Because we feel that that's the right. We've already given water connections to about 7 crore homes. We've done that. 5 crore. We believe that that is a right. That's an extension of the human rights. 8 crores. We've given connections to 8 crore homes, the water pipe connections. We've connected 28 million homes with electricity. Again, we feel that that is necessary for education. It is necessary for a certain standard of living. We've given 80 million connections for gas, cooking gas, so that, our mothers, etc., don't have to, use firewood for cooking. That, again, so that's an extension of the human rights which we are doing. We are redefining what human rights is. We got the right to food. We gave free food to almost about 80 million people, 80 crore people, right throughout the COVID period, just because they could not go and earn, their livelihoods were taken away. We gave free food to 80 crore people. So that's our concept of human rights. Let me tell you this again. This is, as I said, I'll again repeat what I said. It's already there in our DNA. Human rights is there in our DNA. We are the most tolerant people on earth. We never discriminate amongst religions. I mean, we worship all gods. We worship all gods. That's why we have a pantheon of gods. We don't believe in conversion. We are the only religion which does not believe in conversion. Can you believe it? Now, it's not like other religions, who beheaded people just because they did not convert. And this is not a religion which carried out crusades. No. We are different. We are different because we are evolved. People who are more evolved think like this. What we have inside us is precious. What we have inside us is a respect, which is again different. I mean, we don't respect people with wealth and with power. We respect a fakir, somebody like Mahatma Gandhi, who wears a loincloth, who doesn't have, anything to wear on top, and who fasts as a protest, and who believes in ahimsa. That's what we are. And that Mahatma Gandhi's ahimsa was not the first. As I said, Buddhism was born here, by the way. I am proud of who I am. I am proud of my forefathers and my history and my culture. And so, I think are all Indians. Because we are different, we are more evolved, and for us, human rights is something which we have got in our genes. Thank you.
Day 2 of the 2-day National Conference on Human Rights in Indian Culture and Philosophy, organized by the National Human Rights Commission, was held earlier today at the PhD Chamber of Commerce and Industry Auditorium in New Delhi. Justice Shri Arun Kumar Mishra, Chairperson of the National Human Rights Commission, delivered the keynote address on this occasion.
Our past is our present, and what we are doing in presently is going to affect definitely our future generations and future of the entire world, and not only this planet Earth, but entire universe is going to be affected by our actions, inactions, and omissions. We have discussed, and with the help of foreign authors, learned persons, we discussed what they said about our culture, traditions, try to learn from them, and they accepted. And we have also deliberated upon that India is one of the oldest civilizations endowed with rich culture, subcultures, and traditions. Why for? Because India assimilated. Power of assimilation in India is not that of imposition. We have never imposed ourselves on others. Any imposition of one's own culture is definitely a violation of rights of others, and in turn, violation of human rights. Entire humanity has to show the path to each other, not to impose one's culture, ideas, or the religion, as the case may be, on the other. Mark Twain, I recollect, has said in the 18th century, he has said, after visiting the world, India, Bharat is the cradle of human race. I am trying to learn from him. The birthplace of human speech, the mother of history, grandmother of legend, great-grandmother of tradition, and our most valuable and most constructive material in the history of man are treasured up in India, Bharat only. Why? Not due to its imposition, but due to power of its assimilation, acceptance, mutual coexistence of human across the world. We have to live together. We are not different. We are all one. Maybe that we are born in this part and other is born in another part of the planet Earth and someone is on other, but we are basically human. We are all same. There's no difference. There is no difference in our creation. Blood groups may differ, but blood is the same. What is the difference? There's no difference. The ethical and philosophical principles laid down by the ancient Indian philosophers had greatly contributed in establishing peace and harmony in the society. Towards welfare of the concept of welfare state and whatever good exists in Indian culture as on today is due to our past ethos and culture. India had been place of education. There were universities like Harvard and Oxford way back in India which were educating several thousands of students at the one time, world over. Not only from China, but entire Asia and Europe. Though those were destroyed in the attacks first, but culture never came to an end. We assimilated the attackers also, respected them, and lived together with them. That was the power of our culture, tradition, and our what forefathers said about the world is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, globalization. WTO might have been signed today. But Indian philosophy goes back. That entire world, you have right to travel entire world way back in 5,000 years back. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, one family, not even village that we discussed yesterday. So we are all one. The ancient Indian philosophers had never separated ethics from the polity. In fact, concept of welfare state and concept of dharma form the backbone of Indian political and socio-cultural thoughts. Dharma was actually what was the duties and rights. What is righteous, what is right, was supposed to be dharma, and one was required to conduct himself as per dharma to protect human rights of not only himself, his family, but of entire humanity in the entire globe. The concept of dharma formed a backbone of our Indian political and socio-cultural thought. Indian philosophical thought have formed the basis of various international laws in the modern era that we have discussed also. Today, world is facing destructive weapons. Our history shows during Ramayana Kal, when Lakshmana wanted to use, Ram's brother, wanted to use destructive weapon to destroy the enemy at one go, to win Ravana, kill the Ravana Sena, Ram stopped. No, you cannot use this destructive weapon. Again, this would be against humanity. That is a kind of, restraint which existed during time of Ramayana Kal also. That's the way humanity has been protected. And it has been protected not only in India, the world over. Similar instances are found of non-use of the destructive weapon of which may cause destruction at the mass level. Ultra-destructive weapons in Mahabharata also. There were weapons which could destroy the humanity at large. Shri Krishna said, no, such weapons should not be used, even against worst of the enemy, though your life may be sacrificed in the war. India known use of first nuclear weapon, nuclear doctrine is manifestation of the past tradition only. India has declared that it will never use the atomic weapon first. Only in defense, if it becomes absolutely necessary, it can use. That's the way we have to protect the human rights, the humanity, human race. Responsibility of not only of India, responsibility of entire world not to use the weapon. If this is followed, atomic weapon will never be used in the entire world. Today we see mass destruction. Why for? Who is gaining by it? Nobody is gaining by it except those who are the producers of the arms, weapons. Humanity is the entire human and the entire all the countries those who are in the war at any time are the losers. The citizens of those countries are the worst losers for that reason. In Manu Smriti, it was laid down long back that one who has surrendered and is without arms or is sleeping or is non-combatant, though maybe an outlaw, must never be killed. That was the expectation of human rights, and it is still the expectation of human rights that only that much force should be used, which is necessary to control an outlaw. Law should not be taken in the hands. That's the lesson we can learn from even Manu Smriti. Kautilya, who was a shrewd pragmatist and often compared with the realist thinker Machiavelli, emphatically stressed the need for kind treatment of vanquished people and their princes, and also ensured dignified treatment to prisoners of war. According to Mudra Rakshasa, Kautilya set free prisoners of war who were captured by King Chandragupta after fighting a fierce battle. That is a respect Indian culture has shown towards the prisoners of war. Indian tradition and history shows that it forbade a ruler to use public offices for personal gains. Otherwise, you will be disqualified. Theory of punishment advocated by Shanti Parva of Mahabharata regarded the power of punishment as a chief characteristic of the state, but consistently stressed the use of punishment exclusively for public welfare, not for individual gain or retaliative measure. Only when it becomes necessary for public welfare, punishment should be imposed. According to Dharma Shastra, king must decide according to law. Even though he may lose a friendship of a person if his decision goes against the letter. That is the balancing of the justice delivery system which was contemplated in Dharma Shastra 5,000 years ago in this country. We have to learn from it, as on today also. We cannot forget. This is the balancing which is required to impart justice by independent judiciary in an impartial manner in order to protect the rights of all. Buddhism, Jainism, Sikh, Islam, and Sanatan Dharma, which has developed in India and assimilated in our culture. Buddhism and Jainism, Buddhism is being preached in 47 countries of the world. Why for? Why for Buddha is so much popular as on today in the world? It's India's gift. Ahimsa, Paramo Dharma, non-violence was the first teaching of Buddha. Jainism also taught, Mahavir Swami taught. Guru Nanak Dev said, All humans are equal. Treat them equally. Sanatan Dharma says so. Islam, Muslim, they say so. Ahimsa, non-violence is the first principle of Islam culture. So be God, be godly. God is inside you, inside me, inside all of us. How we visualize, how we realize, how we perform our duties towards our own conscience, our own self. We are God. You are God. All of us are God. I am not boasting up. This is probably the spiritualism, self-realization. Realize the God inside yourself is our spiritualism, form of our spiritualism. What is the impact of the COVID and how to restore the human rights in post-COVID scenario? It came to my mind that human rights are the worst suffered during COVID, and new challenges have emerged of intellectual property rights vis-a-vis to human rights. Which should prevail? Right to life or right to patents of vaccines, life-saving drugs? Whether the human world over are entitled for the invention for saving the human lives, we have to think over, deliberate upon the international platform. World, all the humanity should discuss this aspect, what we have lost and what patent those who are holding the patents are gaining. What should prevail, human rights, right to life, or right of intellectual property rights? Ultimately, every invention is for the benefit of the society. Somebody said, how to revive the human rights? There is need to revive the human rights. It is by way of our positive actions only we can revive. And somebody said rightly, India does not impose. Dr. Sharma said, it shows the path to others. I recollect and one Harivansh Rai Bachchan's Madhushala and what he said. मदिरालय जाने को घर से चलता है मतवाला, अलग अलग पथ बतलाते सब पर मैं ये बतलाता हूँ, राह पकड़ तू एक चला चल, पा जाएगा मधुशाला. Actually, what was his Madhushala? Harivansh Rai was Devi Bhakta. His sons were not doing that. Amitabh himself told it. His son, worthy son, that they were not believers of, they were not teaching GT. That's why this Madhushala was written by him to guide them that you should follow this path. That is the way Indian culture shows the path. It doesn't impose one on the other. That's our strength of assimilation. I've taken a little more time. I beg to be excused for that. And please don't refer me as chief guest. I am the basic host, and all of you are the guest and chief guests. Thank you very much for listening patiently.
The two-day conference organized by the NHRC also comprised 3 technical sessions wherein extensive deliberations were held by the experts. Topics such as भारतीय इतिहास में मानव अधिकार का चिंतन, सामाजिक परिप्रेक्ष्य में मानव अधिकार, सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, साहित्य एवं कला में मानव अधिकार were discussed. With this, we come to the end of this radio report on the 2-day National Conference on Human Rights in Indian Culture and Philosophy, organized by the National Human Rights Commission. Produced by Pramod Kumar, this radio report was narrated by Bhuvan Apurva Jha and came to you from the Delhi station of All India Radio.